Hello and welcome into the latest edition of the Fore-All Podcast. I'm Jesse Morrison alongside Max Bechtold. We have a tournament going on right now, actually. The Canadian Women's Open is going on right now. But we're going to go back a little bit before we talk about that. Talk about the standard Portland Classic, which, Max, you were at and you loved it.
I did. This was my favorite tournament I've been to on the LPGA Tour. I kind of
including majors,
even including majors. I'm gonna throw it in there. We've talked about vibes before. The vibes were just incredible at this event. Everybody seemed so relaxed. Obviously, it wasn't the greatest field in the world, which probably added to that. There wasn't a ton of pressure. It felt like every player was in a good mood. Every staff member was in a good mood. The volunteers were phenomenal there. Had some great conversations with them. The spectators were great. Had some great conversations with spectators. It was just a really, really good event to go to. I would, if you're an LPGA fan on the West Coast, I would really, think about kind of marking this on your calendar because Portland's a really great city to go visit. It's easy to get to, and this tournament's really great. It's really historic. Longest running continuous tournament on the LPGA Tour, over 50 years. And almost every event has been played at Columbia Edgewater Country Club. So this is a country club with a lot of history at it, some great winners. And I think it brings a different kind of energy to the tour. It's very much kind of your traditional country club. In that it's small, it's compact, it's easy to walk, it's easily accessible. All the parking was on site, which is something that I really love. And so this was just a really great event to go to. I really enjoyed my time in Portland.
And you really like Pacific Northwest golf in general,
right?
I
do. Yes, I do. I think, well, first of all, I like the weather. And anything that when you kind of get out onto the coast and get a little bit of breeze, you get some overcast days. The weather was always kind of cool, kind of overcast, but never dipped into like being too cold. Never really got the rain that was expected. And so it was just a really pleasant time out there. Wore a sweatshirt and a rain jacket both days, was very comfortable. Like the weather was great. The views were great. Big pine trees lining the course. Like I said, just kind of gives a little bit of a different look to the tour.
Good fan turnout as well, especially on the weekend. And it was a pretty solid tournament. You had Akie EY winning this one. She kind of pulled away at the end, but it was fun to see her out there competing with her sister, actually, Chisato EY, who finished third in this tournament. So that was really cool to see, like the battle there between the two sisters. And then you had a good performance, for us as, ASU grads. Like it was cool to see Lynn Grant out there doing well. I know we've talked a good amount about her having a lot of potential. It was good to see her have a good weekend. Kind of just what were your takeaways from the tournament itself?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've kind of talked about this ironically with the Mexico event earlier this year.
Yeah.
Which ironically was won by Chisato EY.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, the best possible outcome for these events with these lower end fields, kind of not a lot of stars playing it, not a lot of top 20 players playing it. I think the best possible outcome is to get a young star winning it. Something that creates some buzz, something that can create some loyalty with that player where they come back in future years. And so, Chisato won the Mexico event, which had a very weak field. And so to see her sister kind of win this one with a weak field, again, I don't think it takes away from either of their wins. I believe Lynn Grant was in contention in Mexico as well. So it just kind of adds on to the kind of connections.
And
there.
Like I said last week, like this wasn't a horrible field. Like,
no, it
wasn't as bad as Mexico.
I would say it's probably the second weakest field of the year behind Mexico, but it's not close to as weak as Mexico.
You had Rose Day, you had Lauren Coughlin, Ron Hughes,
Brooke Henderson. Like there were some great players. But I do think that this is the best, like I said, possible outcome is to get a player who, we've seen that potential out of, and they can really go take advantage against a field with maybe not the strongest players and go get that first win, get some confidence. And frankly, we're already seeing it come to bear because Akie EY is leading after the first round this week in Canada. So we're already seeing that momentum kind of shift.
Yeah, and you also wanted to get to a couple of other performances. Well, first let's talk about Japan. Japan continues to dominate. Obviously, you had both EY sisters finish in the top 10 of or top 3 of this tournament. So I mean, and we saw it in the week before or the tournament prior. That was really Japanese dominated. I mean, it's just kind of, I guess, they're having a moment.
It's been the story of the season. There's no debate about that. There's no doubt about that. The story of the LPGA season so far is Japan, is the young players from Japan. Now, all 4, of these superstar rookies have won, which is crazy because not a single rookie won on tour last year. So now we've already seen these 4 from Japan, plus Ingrid Lindblad as well from Sweden. So that's 5 rookies overall. But these 4 Japanese rookies, plus Mao Saigo, who's a second-year player, won a major. 2 of the majors went to Japan. 2 of the majors last year went to Japan. Like, they're just stacking wins. They're stacking top 5, top 10 finishes. Most of the top 20 in the CME standings is Japanese players. And it's really, really incredible to see. We are seeing the true birth of a movement right now that 15 years ago, we saw this with South Korea. 6 or 7 years ago, we saw this with Thailand. Now we're seeing it with Japan. Arguably, though, Japan's is looking stronger than any of the other countries.
What do you think they're doing necessarily differently than the rest of the countries in the world? Like, are they more dedicated to the sport? Like, what do you think is happening here?
Well, if you go to LPGA tournaments, there's one thing you'll really see. Japanese media shows up. When you go to these tournaments,
I mean, it's the same way if you get a Japanese star in Major League Baseball.
Absolutely.
There's going to be a ton of Japanese media there.
Absolutely. There's absolutely Korean media out there. There's absolutely Thai media out there. But the most prominent media outside of American media, and maybe even including American media, is Japanese media. There's always people following the top players around. There's 2 or 3 on-course reporters at all time. You can tell they broadcast it really well. I saw clips of Akie doing interviews afterward, and she was just swarmed by Japanese media. I mean, obviously they're on the West Coast, so it's a little bit easier to access, but still, that's not a short distance to travel to come cover this. And even if you're in LA, that's not like a short distance. And so they really cover it really well. And when you've had a couple stars emerge over the last 5-6 years, your Nasa Hataokas, your Yuka Sassos, your Hanako Shibunos, your Ayaka Fudaways, they have so much coverage right now. They're some of the biggest stars in that country, more so than any other really country in the world. Outside of Shohei Ohtani, the biggest stars in Japan for sports are mostly golfers, and a lot of them are women's golfers. Yeah. And so I do think that that impacts the younger generations, that gets players more into it, and I think that just kind of trickles down.
All right, let's talk about amateurs. There's an amateur right now in the Canadian tournament that is playing exceptionally well. We'll get to her in a minute. But you wanted to talk about Kiara Romero, an amateur who finished tied 7th in Portland, 16 under for the tournament, shot a round 4 64, which was better than the winner shot, Akie Iwai. So, I mean, yeah, just pretty incredible weekend for her.
I was really curious to watch Kiara Romero because now with Lottie Woad no longer an amateur, she's the highest ranked amateur in the world. This was kind of this and the U.S. Women's Amateur back-to-back. They were her first tournaments as that number 1 amateur in the world. And so I was really intrigued to see how she would perform. And she came out and performed kind of like Lottie Woad. She got legitimately into contention. She had a little bit of a hometown crowd behind her. She's from San Jose, California, but she plays at Oregon. So she kind of had that local support. And I followed her around for a couple holes, just curious to see. And I really liked what I saw. I think she's going to be a player that in the next couple of years could be a star. We're looking at those leap points right now. She's got 13. She's got the opportunity to earn a couple more this week in Canada. She's in the field once again. So I'll be interested to see if she can do that. But I'm really intrigued by her. I think if she doesn't, she probably won't reach those leap points this year. That's a big stretch. So I think when you're looking at her college season this year, you're looking at, no doubt, coming into it, the best player in college golf. And I think it's going to be really, really fun to watch her.
And then the last player you wanted to talk about to just wrap up this standard Portland Classic coverage that we're doing here was Juli Inkster and what she did.
Yeah, the story of the week, without a doubt. Speaking of San Jose, it was kind of interesting juxtaposition with Juli Inkster being from the Bay Area. She played her college golf at San Jose State, so her and Kiara Romero kind of had that connection. But 65 years old, had the chance to be the oldest player ever to make the cut on the LPGA Tour, 7-time major winner, absolute legend. I was standing on the 18th green when she finished, or in the 9th green. It was her 18th hole when she finished on Friday. When she made her putt for par, everybody there thought she was making the cut. Cut moved just a little bit, knocked her out, but still an incredible week. She was in such a great mood. She was playing to the crowd. She was having a great time. Crowd was having a great time with her. I saw, like, when she was walking off the green, people were actually thanking her for coming to play because, this is a very historic tournament and it didn't have a great field. So to have a legend like that come in, play well, the crowd was eating it up. They were loving it. She had the biggest crowds out there the first 2 days. And it was a great story. Even though it didn't end the way a lot of people wanted it to, it was still phenomenal to watch.
Yeah, I really enjoy when I think it's really cool when an athlete that's a legend, is still somewhat playing and they do something great that kind of reminds you of when they were amazing. Like I remember this in golf. I remember I think it was the British Open for men's in the mid 2000s. Greg Norman was already pretty up there and he had a phenomenal showing. And then there was another tournament.
Tom Watson had the great one where he almost won. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think those are always super fun to see. A women's sports example. I covered the Phoenix Mercury out here in Arizona, and when Diana Taurasi was going for her 10,000 points, she had like 40 something on the night that she went for that at 41 years old, which was crazy. So
it's great to see legends be great.
Yeah, it's great to see legends be great. And unfortunately, she couldn't make the cut, but
she's playing this week at the U.S. Senior Women's Open. Should have a ton of momentum going into that off of this performance. I mean, if she can be up there with the LPGA players in their prime right now, there's no reason she shouldn't go out and dominate it near her hometown at the U.S. Senior Women's Open, which is being played in the Bay Area. So there's no reason that she shouldn't be able to go out and play great.
All right, let's get to the what it's technically called, the CPKC Women's Open. We've got Akie EY leading the field after the first round, 7 under. And yeah, I mean, we always talk about momentum in this sport, and it looks like she's got that. But there's a lot of other good names in this leaderboard. Tied second, Gino Titicun. That's very interesting. Tied 13th, 2 under, Nelly Korda. So you've got
Megan King, Leona McGuire also in the mix. There's a lot of players with a lot of experience up there.
Yes, and then the player that I wanted to highlight too, because I know we were talking about amateurs earlier, is Aphrodite Dang. She is tied for second right now, 5 under. I mean, the amateur play has been incredible this season.
Yeah, Aphrodite Dang, really intriguing player. U.S. Girls Junior champion this year. Won Nelly's tournament that she hosts on the junior circuit. Won the Mizuho America's Classic. So this is a player who has some legitimate she has a legitimate resume behind her already, just as a junior, just as a really young player. When we're talking about the future of women's golf, it's a lot to put on a player her age, but she's certainly in that mix. And she actually came and played, my parents' home course in Flagstaff a few weeks ago in a tournament. It was pretty exciting to see her on the list there. Yeah, she's a great player. Canadian. She plays under the Canadian flag.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so playing in her home country, the Canadian fans are so supportive. They're so incredible. I was talking to a couple this week in Portland who are Canadian, and they were out there. Elena Sharp, not necessarily known as like a superstar on the tour, but Elena Sharp stood on that first tee, and they were going crazy for her. They followed her the whole way around, and they love their players. They love their homegrown talent. So I'm really intrigued to see what Aphrodite Dang does this week with that crowd behind her. I think the crowd will like kind of they're with Brooke right now, but they'll slowly migrate over to Aphrodite, and I'll be really intrigued to see. She's played in front of big crowds before, obviously at the Mizuho America's Classic or America's Open, where she played with Gino Tidekun this year, and I believe Nelly also. So she's used to playing in front of big crowds, but I'll be interested to see when that pressure notches up how she performs.
All right, who do you have winning this one?
I picked coming into the week Andrea Lee. I'm not going to go completely away from that pick, but she didn't have the best first round. I will pick Gino Tidekun. She was my second pick for this week in my article this week, and she's a couple of strokes back after the first round in a really good position. Akie Iwai is a very volatile player. She can shoot 62 or she can shoot 78. And there's really the range is anything in between that. And I just think Gino's a little bit more consistent getting off to this great start. I think she's in a really good position.
And I think for me, I was going to pick Gino, but the whole playing in Canada, having a Canadian, I'm going to go with Aphrodite Dang. And, I know she's an amateur, but
here's my thing. On my article this week, I picked an amateur as my fifth slot. Now, it was Kiara Romero, but I don't think picking an amateur is crazy.
Yeah, I'm going to pick her. So I think she's going to win. And what do people need to be looking for on the site, Max? That's Fore-All.com, FORE-ALL.com.
Continued coverage of the Canadian Women's Open. We've gone to Boston after that. So there'll be coverage of that coming up. Next week, I'm going to be taking a little bit of a trip to Pebble Beach.
Nice.
And so I'm going to be writing some stuff about my experience, doing some more like golf course review kind of things. So switching it up a little bit, doing some different things. So yeah, there's some stuff there to look out for. Taking my camera to Pebble Beach, so she'll get some really good pictures of the most beautiful course, I think, in the world. I've played it a couple times. I've played a lot of golf courses, never seen anywhere prettier than Pebble Beach. So should be some great pictures and some write-ups about the experience.
Well, that sounds awesome. I'm envious. I am going to San Diego in like a week.
Also great.
So also great. I haven't decided. Might have a Torrey Pines in there. I don't think I have time for 18 though, and they don't have 9-hole rates. So that it probably won't happen. But if it does, I'll explain. I'll talk about my experience. But anyway, that'll do it for this week's edition of the Fore-All Podcast, and we will get back to you next week after the end of the CPKC Women's Open.